Welcome everyone, my name is Priyanka and the lesson which we are going to study today is Glimpses of India. This lesson basically has been divided into three chapters. First is A Baker from Goa, second is Coorg by Lokesh Abral, and the third one is Tea from Assam by Arup Kumar Datta. First of all, we'll see the introduction of the chapters. The first part is a pen portrait of a traditional Goan village, baker or pedder who still has an important place in Goan culture, although the Portuguese have left India long the back. The second part is a pen portrait of Coorg, which is a coffee country famous for its rainforest and spices. The third part is about tea plantation in Assam. First of all, we'll see part 1, A Baker from Goa. Bread making in Goa. This is a pen portrait of the traditional Goan village baker who is still remembered by Goans. Bread making started from the Portuguese days. They were the lovers of breads. Bread making was an art which needed perfection. Mixing, molding, and baking were the areas of specialization of making a bread. The loaves were baked in time, tested furnaces. This profession has been continued by the baker's descendants. The author's childhood days, now he is recalling. The writer remembers his childhood days when the baker used to be their friend, companion, and the guide. He used to visit twice a day, once in the morning during his selling hours, and then again while returning after selling all his bread. The jingling thud of the bamboo he carried woke them up in the morning, and they ran to meet and greet him. They ran for getting the bread bangles, which was specially made sweet breads. Then delivering the loaves. As the baker came, he would call out the lady of the house and wish her good morning. This was the ritual of the baker. The children would be pushed aside and the loaves would be delivered to the maid servant. The author recalls the aroma of loaves, the smell of loaves that filled the air. The children would not even brush their teeth and ate bangles made of bread with tea. Then comes the importance of bread in traditional ceremonies. The various kinds of bread were very important for all occasions. No marriage was complete until and unless the traditional bowl was served. The lady of the house prepared sandwiches on the occasion of her daughter's engagement, and bolinas would be prepared for Christmas and other festivals. Then comes the baker's dress. The baker was usually dressed in a kabai, a long frock reaching down to the knees, or a shirt and a trousers, which were shorter than full length ones and longer than half pants. Even today, if anyone dares to go out in the streets wearing half pants, he is referred to as pedder or a baker. Then comes bread making. Bread making was considered to be a profitable profession those days, even these days. The baker usually collects his bills at the end of the month. All the accounts were written on some wall in the premises with a pencil. It was a profitable profession during those days because it was found that the Portuguese were lovers of freshly baked breads. The baker, his family members, and his servants looked prosperous and happy. Now we'll quickly go through the highlights of the chapter. First is the Portuguese in Goa were lovers of breads. Those eaters of bread have now gone, but its mark still exists. During the childhood days of the narrator, a baker used to be their friend, companion, and guide. The baker came twice a day, once in the morning and again while returning after finishing his selling. The jingling thud of the baker's bamboo woke up sleeping children. The loaves were delivered to the servants of the house. The children would peep into the baker's basket for bread bangles. Children would eat with hot tea without brushing even. The marriages were incomplete without the popular bowl bread. Borhinhas was a must during Christmas and all other festivals. The bakers wore a particular knee-length frock known as kabai. Baking was a profitable profession. Bakers had a plump physique testifying to this. The bakers collected their bills at the end of the month. Then comes part 2, Coorg. Coorg is also called a heavenly place. It is a district of Karnataka and lies between the towns of Mysore and Mangalore. It is like a heaven on earth. It is inhabited by martial men, beautiful women, and wild creatures. Now we talk about the weather and environment of Coorg. It is the smallest district of Karnataka. It consists of evergreen forests, spices, and coffee plantations. The best season to visit Coorg starts in September and continues up to March. The weather in Coorg is pleasant during these months. Then we talk about people of Coorg. The people here are possibly of Greek or Arabic descent. According to a legend, Alexander's army moved south along the coast and settled there only when they were unable to return to their country. These people married among the locals, and their culture can be witnessed by their martial traditions, marriages, and religious rites. The Kodavas means the residents of Coorg wear a long black coat with an embroidered waist belt known as kufiya. It resembles kufiya worn by the Arabs and the Kurds. Then comes bravery tales of Coorg. Coorg people are well known for their bravery. The Coorg regiment is one of the most decorated regiments of the Indian Army. General Cariappa, the first Indian Army chief, was a Coorgi. Even today, only the Kodavas are permitted to carry firearms without a license. Then comes wildlife in Coorg. Coorg is home to a large number of wild animals, birds, mahashas. A large freshwater fish is found here also. Kingfishers, squirrels, and langurs live without any fear. Wild elephants enjoy being bathed and scrubbed in the river by their mahouts. The river Kaveri gets its water from the hills of Coorg. Coorg is also a very famous tourist place. Even the laziest tourists become adventurous on coming to Coorg, as it is full of adventure sports like river rafting, canoeing, rock climbing, etc. The climb to Brahmagiri Hills brings smile to many faces, and one can see the panoramic view of Coorg from there. India's largest Tibetan settlement at Bailakope is inhabited by monks in red, ochre, and yellow robes. There are many more surprises waiting at Coorg for the tourists to discover. Then comes how to reach Coorg. Coorg can be reached by road and by rail. If one prefers to go by air, then the nearest airports are Bangalore and Mangalore. By road, it is about 250 to 260 kilometers from Bangalore. Now comes the chapter highlights. Coorg or Kodagu, the smallest district of Karnataka, is a heavenly place. The best season to visit it is from September to March. The people living there are probably the descendants of Arabs or Greeks. Their culture is apparent in their martial traditions, marriages, and religious rites. The Kodavas wear a long black embroidered coat called kupiya. The Coorg regiment is one of the most decorated regiments in Indian Army. Kodavas are the only people in India permitted to carry firearms without a license. The river Kaveri begins from the hills and forests of Coorg. A variety of plants, birds, and animals can be seen there. The place offers a number of adventure sports for the tourists. The Tibetan monks are amongst many surprises that can be seen there. Then comes the last part, that is part 3, Tea from Assam. Rajveer's visit to Assam. Rajveer and Pranjal are traveling to Assam by train, as Pranjal has invited Rajveer to visit his home during the summer vacation. Rajveer is very excited to see the beautiful scenery and greenery and tea plantation as well. Rajveer tells Pranjal that over 80 crore cups of tea are drunk every day throughout the year. Throughout the world, actually. The beautiful tea gardens. Rajveer looks at the scenery outside and is mesmerized by its beauty. The view from the train was also panoramic. There was greenery outside. The soft green paddy fields gave way to tea bushes. Tea bushes spread as far as the eyes could see. Then the lesson talks about a few legends about discovery of tree. That is, there are many legends about discovery of tea. The Chinese legend says that when a few tea leaves accidentally fell into the boiling water which the emperor tasted and liked, tea making started. Indian legend tells that a Buddhist monk cut off his eyelids because he felt sleepy during meditations. 10 tea plants grew out of those eyelids. The leaves of these plants, when put in hot water and drunk, drove away sleep. Then comes Chinese, the tea lovers. Rajveer told Pranjal that tea was first drunk in China. Words like chai and chini are of Chinese origin. From China, it spread to Europe and then to Asia. Earlier, tea was drunk more as a medicine than as a beverage. Then Dekhiabari. The boys alighted at Mariani Junction. Soon they were driving towards Dekhiabari, the tea garden managed by Pranjal's father. Groups of tea pluckers with bamboo baskets on their backs and wearing plastic aprons plucking the newly sprouted leaves could be seen everywhere. The best tea is obtained during the period of May to July. Now, quickly, we'll see the chapter highlights. Part 3. Pranjal and Rajveer are going to visit Assam by train. Rajveer was busy looking at the beautiful scenery outside the train. It was green everywhere as far as the eye could see. The soft green paddy bushes gave way to tea bushes. Assam has the largest concentration of tea plantation in the world. The Chinese are said to have discovered tea. There is also an Indian legend saying that Bodhidharma discovered tea. From China, tea came to the European countries and then to Asian countries. Pranjal's father managed Dekhiabari, a tea garden. There were many tea pluckers around the tea bushes. The best tea is obtained between March to July.